Welcome back to KBC News Check. On this second hour, as I had mentioned earlier on, we are looking at human trafficking with the bias to the escalating crisis of enforced criminality, especially in the Southeast Asia. And because of the interest of time, allow me to rope in my panel of experts, beginning from my immediate left, where we have Madam Roselyn Njogu, who is the PS, or the Principal Secretary, State Department for Diaspora Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. Karibu sana, Madam.
Asante sana. Thanks for having me to have this really important conversation. Yes. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Next, we have James Amunga. James Amunga is one of the survivors when it comes to matters human trafficking. He will be telling us all about it in the next couple of minutes. Karibu sana, James.
Nashukuru.
Pole kwa yale alikukumba bwana.
Ni Mungu, nashukuru.
All right. And just next to James, we have Otieno, who is the Programs Manager, Awareness Against Human Trafficking, HEART. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Madam Pierce, beginning with you, where are we in regards to enforced criminality as a form of human trafficking?
Right. So I mean, that's a serious issue. Let me say that what we are seeing now in terms of a trend within broadly the human trafficking space is that traditionally we saw child trafficking, or we saw trafficking for purposes of commercial sex work and that kind of thing. But human trafficking has taken a slight bend, especially in the regions that you spoke about, particularly Southeast Asia, within the spaces of Myanmar and others, where victims are taken to these places under the guise of labor mobility, or that they're going to find opportunities. And when they get there, then they find themselves in camps where they're working in forced criminality. So not the usual sort of forced labor, but your services or your labor is specifically being used for criminal activities around cyber fraud, scamming, and that kind of thing. It's a big concern. Yes.
James, what exactly happened and where exactly were you, in a nutshell?
You'll allow me to speak in Swahili?
Yes, by all means.
Nilikuwa pande za Myanmar. Kutoka hapa Kenya tulidanganywa sababu sikuwa peke yangu. Tulitoka hapa tukiwa watatu. So tukaenda tukapata Wakenya wengine huko. So tulitoka hapa tukiambiwa tunaenda kufanya kazi in different ni categories. So tukaambiwa, kama mimi example, I'm a professional chef. So nikitoka hapa nilikuwa naenda kama chef kupika. Mwingine alitoka hapa kama anaenda kufanya kama attendant kwa supermarket. Mwingine alitoka hapa anaenda kama supervisor wa cleaners. So time tulifika huko, we were received very well. Tulipokelewa vizuri sana. Pilots walikuwa wanatembea, but sisi tulikujiwa na club car. Kufika kwa security, hata tu kupanga laini, tulipitishwa tu straight. So tukaona kama hii kazi ni mzuri sana. As in, ni mzuri sana sababu vile tunapokelewa peke yake, tulipokelewa vizuri kabisa. So wakati tulianza kuenda, ndio tuliona hii safari si ya kawaida kabisa.
Sasa kutoka airport sasa? Kutoka
airport sasa. Hiyo safari haikuwa ya kawaida kabisa sababu tulikuwa tumeambiwa tunaenda kwa capital city ya Thailand kufanya kazi huko, lakini sasa tumefika, tunaona tunaenda the other way. Tunaona city ndio ile huko, lakini tunaenda the other way. So hapo ndio tulianza kuuliza maswali. Dereva alijifanya ajui kizungu kabisa. So tukaenda, tulisafiri for 9 hours. Tulisafiri for 9 hours toka kwa airport. Na siati tulikuwa tumefika mahali tulikuwa tunafaa tuende. Tulipelekwa kwa a town called Mysot. Iko near border ya Myanmar na Thailand. So kwa hiyo town tulikombolewa rooms. Hapo ndio tulispend the night. Sababu tulifika hapo hivyo around saa 5 ya usiku. So tulilala hapo sababu atungeendelea kuenda, sababu hii nyingine yote ilikuwa ni mustuni, alafu tuvukishwe mto ndio tuende the other side. So spend the night hapo. Tuka asubuhi kesho yake tulichukuliwa na different cars. Ile kaili tuchukua kutoka airport kutupeleka mpaka pale kwa zile rooms ilikuwa tofauti. Yenye ilitukujia kututoa hapo kwa rooms mpaka kwa mto.
Bado mkombogi ama sasa ni moja moja?
Tulikuwa watatu. Tulikuwa, I think huyu mwenye alikuwa ametununua alituchukua tukiwa watatu hivyo. sababu tulienda camp moja, ofisi moja, sababu kuna different camps. Tulienda camp moja kwa ofisi moja, sisi wote tulikuwa kwa ofisi moja, sisi wote watatu. Yeah.
Wow. Na ulijuaje sasa kazi kidogo, nilikuwa nakuja upishi lakini sasa mambo imebadilika mara moja?
Most of the hotels vile mimi najua zinakuanga na zile gari za kampuni. So ukifika airport obviously ni gari ya kampuni itakukujia, sababu si mara yangu ya kwanza kusafiri nje. Nilikuwa Qatar. Qatar tulikujiwa na gari ya kampuni. Nilikuwa nimeenda kama hiyo wakati nilienda kama housekeeper. Tulikujiwa na gari ya kampuni, iko na logo ya kampuni, iko na ni dereva wa kampuni, yani unaona kabisa hii ni gari ya kampuni. So hapa wakati nilienda najua 5-star hotels obviously lazima ikuwe tu na gari za kampuni, yani iko na nia kampuni ku advertise na pamoja nini ile kuwa shua ni nini ya kampuni, unaona. So wakati tulifika pale tulikujiwa na V8. Tulichukuliwa na V8 kutoka pale airport. Tukashangaa hii ni kampuni gani na gari kubwa hivi na tukujia. Hatukujiuliza story na ni branding ama nini. Tuliangalia tu kwanza V8 na tukujia sisi wafanyikazi tu wa kawaida. Tukasema anyways, sababu hao wengine walikuwa excited na mimi ndio walikuwa, yani tukitoka hapa Kenya huyo agent alikuwa amewaeka ni kama wako anda mimi sasa, sababu mimi nilikuwa na experience ya kusafiri, hao hawana. So mimi ndio nilikuwa ni kama najaribu kuwaelezea vile huwa inakuwa, si ndio? So wakati tulichukuliwa na V8 nikaanza kuambia hapa sioni kama mambo iko sawa kabisa, sababu hii gari inatukujia gari ya kampuni ndio ilikuwa inafaa tukujie.
Na baada wachukua mmepelekwa kwa hoteli, mmetritiwa vizuri kwa hiyo yote na hakuna kitu mmeambiwa bado?
Hakuna kitu yote tumeambiwa. Hakuna kitu yote tumeambiwa. Tuliuliza sana. Wakati aliona tunauliza sana, alikuwa na communicate. Kulikuwa na communication between yeye I think na mwenye alikuwa ametuleta pale. Sababu hata tulikuwa tukipita any checkpoint, huyu dereva alikuwa na communicate. I think vile mimi nilikuwa naona alikuwa anawaambia tumepita checkpoint fulani, tunaelekea mahali fulani. Tukipita checkpoint nyingine tena anawaambia. So kitu yenyewe ilituma tena nikakuwa na tashwishi na hii safari ni pale mahali hizi checkpoint. Tulikuwa tukifika kwenye checkpoint, hawa polisi wanachukua passport zetu. So unajua lazima waangalie, watuangalie sisi, lakini sasa walikuwa wanachukua passport zetu, wanaongea na dereva, wanacheka, alafu hata wafungui passport zetu waangalie. Wanarudisha passport, tunafanya nini? Si tunaendelea. So hapo ndio niliona kuna kitu inaendelea hapa. Another kwa hizi ni checkpoint zote ilikuwa ina happen the same. Wanacheka, wanaongea ni kama watu wanajuana. Sikuwa na nini kabisa, sikuwa na amani nao, lakini sasa sababu nilikuwa nasema ningekuwa peke yangu kwenye hiyo gari, ukweli ningeruka nje.
Ulianza kuona dalili mapema?
Nilianza kuona dalili mapema.
Aya, utatupatia story yote sahihi tu, but allow me to also rope in Mercy. You have noticed hard works in the region, not only in Kenya. How is the trend in the region and especially in Kenya?
Well, in Kenya we would say that for a long time, I think since our organization was founded, the cases we are used to seeing is forced labor, specifically for domestic servitude in the Gulf. And of course, we've also seen cases of child trafficking, but majority is for adult trafficking, and majority of the survivors tend to be women. But however, we would say since 2022, we saw a shift in the profile of the survivors of trafficking we were helping, looking into the now Myanmar case for forced criminality. So yes, it's forced labor, but then we are seeing the subtype has changed to forced criminality. And also we are seeing more men than women being recruited to do these jobs. And also when we look at their education qualifications, we are also seeing a change, because previously we would see, for example, people who've either just done basic education or they do not have any education at all. But with this new profile, we are seeing people who have university degrees, diploma, people who've actually gone to school, and also looking at issues to do with employment. Some of them were employed before they were recruited for this kind of job. So some of them even left their jobs believing that they're going to get better pay. So that's the change I would say that we've seen. And it's not only affecting Kenya, because we also have people from Uganda, we also have people from Burundi, Ethiopia, from the region really being trafficked for this forced criminality. Yeah.
Madam Pierce, in April, you led
let me jump in on something she said, if you'll allow me, and then you can ask the question. And I'm agreeing with Mercy, because the victimology has changed, as she says. When you look at my brother here, he is not just educated, but he has worked in the diaspora before. Yep. He's not a first-time traveler. So what we've seen is that the recruitment by these traffickers has become a little more sophisticated. You do not expect, you walk around not expecting yourself to be a victim, because you're educated, you've worked abroad before, you have all of the different markers, you have certain social capital to lean on and so on, but you still find yourself in the cases, like he found himself. And you can see, because he has traveled before, certain red flags began to go up, but he was in a position where he couldn't necessarily jump out. So because of that shift in the kind of victims they are targeting, then we've stepped up also our communication around that victimology. Because if you are just thinking about female domestic workers being trafficked for purposes of enforced domestic work, which was traditionally sort of what we saw, then the victimology has changed. You need to change your communication and the people you're targeting, which is why we have consistently insisted, please, if you are going to work abroad, let us know. Travel on the right documentation, right? So don't move abroad on a visitor's visa, right? Go away on a work permit or a working visa. Because that's one of the things that I know, for example, when he tells us, that is one of the things that they have done. They have used, they tell you, you travel on this visitor's visa or tourist visa. Once you get to the other side, we'll make the switch for you so that you can have the right status. And then the other thing, apart from that change in victimology and the use of a visitor's visa, then is that we're seeing also a lot of recruitment on social media and online. And the online space is difficult to govern, right? So one of our biggest interventions as far as dealing with trafficking and irregular migration has been working with the licensed and regulated private recruitment agencies who are regulated by the National Employment Authority and the Ministry of Labor. And our messaging has been consistent. If you're going to work abroad, use a licensed and regulated agent, and you can find their list on the NAIR website, nairs.go.ke. But you see, they are traveling again in this sophisticated space where this person recruits you on Facebook. So you see, we're hiring chefs for Thailand, for example. Yeah. Right? They are not actually hiring for Thailand. They are recruiting victims to go and work in these cyber scamming compounds. So because you have worked abroad before, because you're a savvy person, because you're educated and so on, you feel comfortable. I can engage in this space, and you enter that space through and they will interview you, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more of your story, but they will do an interview, a virtual interview, and you really will feel like you're being taken through the right process until you land at the airport. Then these sort of red flags begin to go off. So this, for me, and part of the reason we have stepped up our communication and the campaign against this is just to notify people that staying within the legit and the standard routes, the standard paths that GOK is saying we've created certain pathways for labor mobility will safeguard you, even if you don't generally think you need those kinds of safeguards. But working with licensed recruitment agents or working through the Diaspora Placement Agency, which is a government agency for recruitment, will keep you safe, so to speak.
Yeah. Yes. I wanted to ask, in April,
yes,
you spearheaded efforts to repatriate Kenyans who are stuck in various countries. What is the ministry doing to ensure that we don't have 300 Kenyans coming back and 500 going back?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I've sort of begun that question. I've sort of preempted your question, I believe. In the last 2 years, since 2022, as Mercy said, we've brought back 303 Kenyans from various places, particularly around the Myanmar and the Golden Triangle, as it's called, region. Again, sort of fitting the profile that we've described. It has been a both difficult but extremely frustrating exercise, because as you pull out, as we rescue some, others are on their way out. As you rescue some, others are on their way out. The biggest tool against human trafficking is just informing people, because security starts with you. If he knew the things that he knows now, he probably would have put the brakes on the move himself, right? So one of the biggest things we are doing is an awareness campaign, including this conversation that we are having here, and I'm grateful that KBC has called us to have this conversation, to just tell Kenyans who are looking to find opportunities abroad. Opportunities abroad are there, and they are abundant, and they are good opportunities. You have to use the right path to find those opportunities, which is what I have described, using the private recruitment agencies who are regulated, using the government agency, which is a diaspora placement agency that has opportunities as well for people. And if you're in doubt, check. Kachonjo. You can write to us. You can email us at kazimaju@diaspora.go.ke, and we'll tell you whether that job is legit or not. As late as yesterday, no, 2 days ago, a colleague of mine, another PS, texted me and asked me, PS, is this job legit? Because somebody, one of my friends or relatives, is being sort of pushed quickly, move, there's a job somewhere in Turkey and so on. And very quickly I check, I'm like, this is a scam. Yeah. This person is either being scammed or they're being trafficked. So if you just drop us that quick message, we're able to tell you. But now beyond that, here are some of the other things that we've done, sort of systemic things to ensure that we can safeguard Kenyans beyond giving them information. At the airport, at our main international points of departure, JKIA and in Mombasa, we now have a labor mobility desk. And the labor mobility desk works like this. If you're traveling through, we can check for you and confirm whether, sort of as a last minute clearance, to confirm whether actually you're traveling for legit work or whether you're going away as a victim of human trafficking. Every week, hundreds of people are intercepted at that desk, which means that if we were not doing this, we would be having more and more and more challenges.
And so mostly they have the tourist visa.
They have a tourist visa. They don't have, a work permit or a working visa. They have a tourist visa. And it is to some of the same places. So we are intervening consistently to stop people. But I will tell you this, that a number will still insist on going. And because Kenyans have the freedom of movement, there are people who will ask, don't go, and they will still go. The last group that we rescued, I think, and we had a press conference at the JKIA, I think Mercy was there. Some of the people we spoke to, we asked them, so did you know, had you heard about our various interventions and all of the publicity we've done? One of them quite simply told us, I knew, we had been told, but at this point I figured I'd go try my luck. Right, so there is a bit that there's much that government can do and has done, but security still starts and stops with you. The migrant or the potential diasporian has to also do the part where you have to follow the rules that we're sort of putting in place.
Jemo, situation yako ilikuwa hivyo, ulikuenda na tourist visa ama ulikuwa umeitiwa job na msee? Because the good thing, you have already traveled abroad. Previously. So
kitu ili happen ni hata nilikuwa job nikitiwa hii job. Nilikuwa Qatar. Niko job. Hata sikumaliza contract yangu, ilibidi nimeterminate contract ndio nikuje nifanye nini? Sababu walikuwa advert yao ni ya kuvutia sana, unaona. Wanakuambia hapo wanakupea $1,200, hiyo ni basic. Alafu kuna 300 hiyo ni ya upkeep, $300 ya upkeep. Na ukipiga hesabu Qatar maybe unapata kitu 60 ama 70,000 ukilinganisha na hii, unaona hii iko juu zaidi, unaona. So mimi sikuwa najua anything about, mimi nimeona movie mingi na hii Thailand imekuwa na, yani kwa movies wanaonyesha venye kuna kidnapping inaendelea huko, kuna hizo scamming, lakini sasa unajua ile ni movie, mimi siwezi amini movie. When it comes kwa about government kusema vitu kama hizi ati kuna scamming, kuna nini, mimi sikuwa nimewahi sikia, sababu kama ningekuwa nimesikia singefanya nini, singeenda. Alafu our agents ni wajanja sana. Our agent kitu yenye wanafanya ni wanaku prepare. Wanajua maswali zenye unaenda kuulizwa pale kwa airport before ufanye nini. Wanakutengenezea documents. Kama mimi nilitengenezewa documents kama nafanya kwa ilikuwa ni story na finances na nini. Nikaambiwa hii utatumia aufanyi hapa, umetengenezewa umebukiwa mpaka hoteli.
Huyo agent tunaongea about ni Mkenya?
Ni Mkenya. Ni Mkenya. Okay. Hoteli unalipa kama $1,300. Hiyo ni 5 nights. Sababu nilikuwa visa yangu ilikuwa inasema naenda for 5 days, alafu nifanye nini? Nirudi. So hawa agents ni wajanja kabisa, wanajua. Na huyu madam I think ni kitu yenye amefanya kwa muda mrefu sana, sababu kila mtu ambaye ile wakati nilifika pale kwa ile camp, watu wote walikuwa nalalamika kumuhusu. Tulikuta tunalalamika kuhusu the same person. Na ilibidi nime record videos, nikapiga pictures za mahali pale, sababu tulikuwa tunamlalamikia, tunamwambia ni yapi hapa ulituleta, kwa nini ulituuza, sababu wakati tulifika pale.
Acha nirudi nyuma kidogo. Ulijuaje mmeuzwa? Kwa sababu wewe kwa kawaida ulikuwa unajua vizuri unaenda Thailand kukua chef huko. Ni wapi ulijua nishauzwa mimi?
Nilijua nimeuzwa wakati niliona nimeanza kugeuzwa kwa magari, unabadilishwa kwa magari.
Sasa mshavuka kutoka mko Thailand sasa?
Tuko Thailand bado. Tuko Thailand bado. Nilijua tumeuzwa, hata niliambia wenzangu. Niliambia hapa hivi yenyewe tuendeleeni tu, sababu pale unaona bunduki. Huyu sijua anafanya intentionally, sababu kuna time alifungua draw akajifanya anachukua kitu. Unaona kuna pistol hapo kwa nia gari. So hakuna vile unaweza fanya, hakuna venye unaweza nini. Unaona hiyo ndio kitu wanatumia ile intimidate indirect.
Aya, ulienda kufanya kazi gani? Yani sasa ulikuwa unaenda kuwa chef, lakini sasa umejua vizuri hii imeenda ushauzwa. So mliambua ama mlifosiwa kufanya kazi gani?
Tulifosiwa kufanya scamming. Na when it comes kwa scamming, kuna scamming type tofauti. Kama yetu sasa ilikuwa love scam. Yetu ilikuwa love scam sasa.
Inafanya kazi aje?
Love scam ni unakatia mtu paka anaingia box. Akishaingia box, kuna kazi yenye unamfunza indirect. Unafanya ni kama anakusaidia kufanya kazi fulani, lakini in real sense unamfundisha hii kazi. Unaona? Sababu when unafika hivi unapewa script. Hii script unafaa uipitie for 15 days. After 15 days ndio uanze sasa kuchat. Unafaa ukram hii script ndio unatumia.
Sasa hao watu online ulikuwa unawapataje?
Hao watu online, kuna watu wanaitwa number search. Number search, hawa wanaenda kwenye TikTok, wanakutext tu hi. Unaona picha ya msichana mrembo pale, utajibu.
Kumbe ni JMO.
So ukishajibu wanakuambia I don't use TikTok too much, so give me your number, I'll text you on WhatsApp. So wewe utatuma namba. Ukishatuma hii namba, so hii namba au watu wa number search wanaletea JMO. Sasa JMO ndio anaanza kukuongelesha. Na unapewa script ya 4 days. Na within 4 days unafaa kuwa umeingisha mtu box mpaka amekupea pesa, amekutumia pesa.
Sasa umemuitisha pesa za nini haswa?
Inaanza kama relationship. Inaanza kama relationship na kukatia, unaingia box. Ukishaingia box na kuonyesha lifestyle yangu na wewe unanionyesha lifestyle yako. Sababu na kutumia picha nikiwa kwenye ofisi yangu, na kutumia picha nikidrive, na kutumia picha nikiwa kwa park. Si mimi sasa, kuna picha ya model ako hapo. Alafu ukishaingia box on the 4th day nakwambia enyewe leo nimetokea kazi, nimechoka, kuna kazi nataka unisaidie. Hapa sasa ndio nakufundisha hii scam. So utanisaidia kuna vitu zinaitwa ni kama orders. easy online. Ukitap order ina move on the next, una tap order ina move on the next. So ninakuonyesha vile una tap. Wakati utamaliza kunisaidia, kuna ile commission nitakupea. Kuna ile commission nitakupea. Hii commission ni
Ebu shikilia tu hapo kidogo tu. Okay, endelea kindly.
Hii commission ni hawa wa China wanatumia hizi exchange kufanya nini? Kukutumia pesa, wallet address. So kitu tunafanya na insist create account kwa Binance ama hii ni yote exchange app yoyote. Ukisha create hapo nitakutumia pesa. Dollars nitakutumia $30 to $55. Ita range na vile wewe nimepima wealth yako. Ita range na vile nimepima wealth yako. So nikisha kutumia hii nina make sure change hizi dollars into Kenyan money. Ukisha change into Kenyan money utaweka either kwa your M-Pesa ama your account. Ukishafanya hivyo, hii pesa ukishaona iko kwa account yako, unaona this thing is real na unafanya nini? Unataka kuendelea. Hapo ndio hata the next day mwenyewe utajileta tu. Sababu nimekupea pesa leo bure, kesho tena utataka.
Aya, shikilia hapo naambiwa we need to go to there is a research and innovation conference, energy research and innovation conference that is being spearheaded by CS Energy Opiyo, and is currently addressing. Let's first of all listen in.
This year's theme, energy access, could not be timelier and more important. As you all know that access to affordable and sustainable energy is our major driver. And today, nearly 80% of Kenyans have access to electricity, up from just 30% a decade or so ago. That is no mean feat, I'm sure you agree with me. And it's a result of consistency in encouraging investment, policy reforms, and public-private partnerships. But despite this milestone, the journey to enabling 100% access is far from over. There are still millions of Kenyans, especially in remote and underserved regions, who remain in the dark, literally and economically. That's why our focus now is not just to connect more people to the grid, but to make energy meaningful and affordable, thereby empowering every household, school, clinic, business, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about energy access, we did not stop at electricity. Clean cooking, as has been aptly put by previous speakers, is equally a critical aspect of energy access. Over 70% of Kenyan households still rely on firewood or charcoal. This is not just a health crisis, it is an environmental and economic crisis too. That's why we are implementing step by step our national LPG growth strategy aimed at transitioning the populace to clean cooking by 2028. I'm happy that the first vessel of LPG docked safely in Vipingo last week or so. I'm sure the process of this.
All right, that has been CS Energy Opiyo, and they are heading the Research and Innovation Conference on Energy. My colleague Wairimu Njenga is currently on that bit, and she'll be bringing us more in regards to that. But allow me very quickly to go back to this interview. Just in case you joined us, I have Madam P.S. Roselyn Njogu, who is the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Diaspora Affairs. Just next to her, we have James Amunga, who is one of the survivors of this enforced criminality, and just next to him we have Otieno, who is the Programs Manager, Awareness Against Human Trafficking. Kwa haraka kwa sababu hatuna time mingi, mmeambua mscam, kulikuwa na kitu kama targets hivi, na je kama ukijaribu kuniscam na nikose kuingia box ama carton, inaendaje? Mnatritiwaje pia huko? Mnakaa wapi?
Kulikuwa na rooms walikuwa na very good rooms hapo, siwezi lalamika. When it comes kwa food, walikuwa na very good food. hata kama tuko tunajua tunakula nini, but ilikuwa inapikwa poa, na unajua uwezi, ni sababu ni lazima tu ukule ndio ufae nini,
na uwezi toka, kuna kutoka kupiga raundi
toka. Perimeter wall yao ilikuwa round, na every 50 meters kulikuwa na security, every 50 meters kuna security, unaona. Alafu na kuna hao wenye walikuwa na bunduki na kuna wenye walikuwa tu na rungu za kawaida, unaona. Alafu when it comes kwa target walikuwa wana I think walikuwa na kupima na vile ile performance yako ya the first month walikuwa na kurange hapo, sababu mimi na the first month nilijaribu nikaingiza, ilikuwa karibu $1,800. So target yangu ya month, on the next month nilipewa a target of $10,000. So hii $10,000 ukikosa kufikisha, kuna kuchapwa, kuna kuchomwa, kuna kupigwa kuna hizi taser, unapigwa na tasers. Kuna another plastic thing ni flat, then iko na spikes, una stand on top na unabeba mtungi ya 20 liters ukipiga sit-ups, unaona. So lakini hii spike si za kukudunga kukupies, ni za kukuumiza tu, yani ziko pale kukuumiza. So kulikuwa na a lot of kulikuwa na punishment, types of punishment mingi sana. Kuna another Kenyan alifungwa kwa kitanda for 24 hours. Alifungwa hizi double bed, amesimama akafungwa hivi for 24 hours. Tuliamka tulilala tukamwacha amefungwa hapo, tukaamka tukaenda kazi tukamwacha amefungwa hapo for 24 hours. Hata mimi ndio nilirudi after tumetokea, sababu hakuna venye angetoka hapo aende kukula. Nilibai, kulikuwa na ka supermarket hapo, nilibai hizi noodles ready made, unaweka tu maji unakoroga, alafu mimi ndio nilikuwa namlisha after tumetokea kazi. Na hakuna venye ungeweza kumsaidia, sababu ukipatikana umemsaidia in any way, unafanya nini? Wewe ndio unachukua place yake. So kulikuwa na a lot of forms of punishment mingi sana.
Utatuendelea na story, but Mercy, I'm looking at the exploitation and the abuse. What are some of the other things that are you are receiving? He was in a online scam, and as he has said, is that you either scam or there are repercussions in regards to that. And how do people seek help when it comes to his case?
Okay. So among other punishments that we've heard of is, like indirect form of punishment where I am made to watch the other person suffer. And that means it's going to intimidate me so that I know if I do the same thing, if I fail to cooperate, then I will undergo this same suffering. So intimidating them in that way. We've also seen some of them reported electrocution as a form of punishment, and the issues of being made to not sleep for 24 hours, among others. In terms of reaching out to us, so for us, we started receiving these calls, so now for the 2024 case, around September, so they were reaching out to our helpline. And it was really difficult to follow up on this case because they are not always online, and we are relying on WhatsApp. So someone texts you, and it takes like 2-3 days for you to find out what exactly is going on. And then I remember we had one reliable source of information who would communicate with us, but also for them, they would disappear for like 1 week. And even when you talk to them, they tell you, we can't speak to you in English because they are tracking our phones and they will see I'm looking for help and I will suffer. So then it's looking into, can you then speak in your mother tongue? So then we find someone to translate it for us because not all our staff members are from one community. So it was really not easy. So it took us a while to even understand how many of them are in that place. Where exactly are they? Because they could not tell you where they were. They would just tell you, we're in this compound, we are like 20 Kenyans, but we have other nationalities. This is the kind of work that we are doing. But also the information was not that detailed. So it was until the ambassador, now we started talking to the ambassador in Bangkok, where we could now get more information, because for him, he had more information than what the survivors were giving us on the phone. And then from there, the repatriation process began to try and see if we can rescue them. But rescuing them was not easy because some of them had to run away. And if you run away, you might end up dead. Maybe you can give us that experience of those who managed to run away. But majority of them, it's because the ambassador had to see how they get the people out of that compound, which was not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and Madam Pierce, before we continue with this conversation is quite gaining traction. Two ladies have reached out to me privately. This is something that I have been sent, seeking urgent help. They are currently in Iraq and are facing serious exploitation by their employer. Their passports have been confiscated, and with no Kenyan embassy in Iraq, they feel completely stranded. They are desperate to return home. Could you raise this with the PS and ask her what her office is doing or can do to facilitate the safe repatriation of such individuals?
So, two different issues.
Yep.
We're talking about human trafficking,
yep,
but we're also talking about general people working who are in distress. For Kenyans who are in distress, who are working abroad, our protocols are very clear. Our process is very clear. Reach out to the embassy that is closest to you. If you're unable to do that, reach out to us here at Diaspora Affairs. Iraq, of course, we don't have a mission in Iraq, but Iraq is served by our office in Saudi Arabia. So our embassy in Saudi Arabia handles all matters Iraq. If we have the information about these people who are in trouble, and they can do that, they can write to us at consular@diaspora.go.ke. Your friend who's sending that, consular@diaspora.go.ke, and my team is going to follow.
Actually, he's watching as we speak.
And if they're watching, even if they put it up on social media and they give us the details, my team is going to grab on that. But allow me to take the opportunity to say this. It is imperative that Kenyans do not take up opportunities in places where it is difficult for us to support them. We don't have a mission in Iraq. Iraq has certain challenges. Taking up a job in Iraq exposes you to certain levels of risk that we are not able to intervene quickly. We have countries that we have agreements with. And because we have agreements, we have also support as far as our Kenyan missions abroad, and we are able to protect you better there. We have an agreement with Saudi Arabia, for example. We have an agreement with Qatar, with the UAE. And these places are considered not just safe for Kenyans to work in, but we have protection infrastructure to be able to respond there. But when you have Kenyans going to places like Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, which we have banned migration to for 2.5 years now, but Kenyans continue to insist to go to these places, I have to say, at the risk of being the bad guy, that security starts with you. I get a lot of requests often, please help us, kuna msichana wetu ameenda akazama Syria. Mulikuwa mnamkubali enda Syria mbona? There are so many other opportunities. If you stick to the path is there are certain places we've negotiated bilateral labor agreements with these countries where we are able to extend you support, number one. Let me also take that opportunity to jump on something Jemo said. Again, to speak about the need for personal responsibility. Jemo told us that as he went, he had a package prepared, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the hotel where you're going to stay at. This is the, so fake documents. Fake documentation, isn't it? Fake documentation that is meant to overcome the protection mechanisms that government is putting in place. Because as you're leaving the airport, we're going to ask you, because we know, we have rescued 300 people out of this place. We know that there's a chance that you're being smuggled or you're being trafficked. So we will ask you, where are you going to stay? Where is your offer letter? But you see, documentations have been prepared specifically to cheat that process. So you have documents that have been prepared that say you're going to stay in a certain hotel for 5 days, and it shows that you've paid for it. We know that there are those who have fake documents prepared for them to go to the embassy and cheat the visa process. Okay, so you have bank statements that don't exist. You have a CV that has been prepared and so on. And by doing that, you're participating in your own trafficking. So how can we help you? How can we help you when every protection mechanism we put on your path, every hurdle we place so that it makes it difficult for you to be trafficked, you are jumping it yourself. And so it is imperative. It is imperative that Kenyans take responsibility for their own journey. We are here as government to support you if you want to find an opportunity abroad. The State Department for Diaspora Affairs, the State Department for Labor, we have specific mandates. I have a specific mandate at the State Department for Diaspora Affairs to grow the diaspora, to help people find good opportunities, because the global labor market exists. He has experienced it on the good side, and then he has experienced the dark side of it.
What about those situations where it's a legit business, but unfortunately when you go there, you find that you're being mistreated, and especially we've seen that when it comes to our ladies and our girls. What measures should someone, or how should somebody seek the Kenyan?
So we've done a number of things about that specific issue. The first that so when I took up this job 2.5 years ago as the PS for Diaspora Affairs, there are several challenges in that space. One of the things that we've done very closely with the State Department for Labor and my brother PS Mwadime is to create structures that help secure or protect Kenyans in their migration journey. One of those things is we created a global labor market strategy. That strategy says, what is government doing? And it marshals all of government as far as protection of Kenyans in migration, facilitation so that we can find them good opportunities, as far as creating policy and regulating the space. At that time, there were a number of recruitment agents who were acting badly. And what happened is, over the space of 2.5 years, about 700 agents have lost their licenses. Okay, so if you take somebody to country X and they are working under somebody and you're supposed to intervene when there are challenges, you don't intervene, people lost their licenses. If you're not filing your returns to tell us how many Kenyans are working within your company who have gone abroad, you know, by your own business, and you're not responding, if somebody's unwell and so on, you lose your license. So the Ministry of Labor clamped down on this, and the National Employment Authority. So people lost their licenses for this, and we've seen a lot of straightening up within that space. So much so now that if you hear of a migrant who's in distress, or if you hear of a case like this and you investigate, you will likely find that that person did not migrate using a private recruitment agent. They used a travel agent. Those are different things, right? So you're using a travel agent who usually books holidays for people, that kind of thing, and not a PRA, somebody who's not licensed. So that's the first. We did the GLMS. We tightened up the regulation space. The Diaspora Placement Agency was created. That is a parastatal under the State Department for Diaspora Affairs, whose entire job is to brand Kenyan talent abroad so that people can know Kenyans. All the things we know about Kenyans, they're hardworking, all of that stuff, so that we're able to posture properly for good employers. Okay, because we know we have fantastic talent here, and we want people to be able to tap into that fantastic talent. If he's a good chef, we want to place his talent at the best possible rate in an international market, so that he's able to use his talent, not doing love scams, but actually working in some fantastic 5- or 7-star hotel, right? So that's what the placement agency does. It also has opportunities that are sought by the government for Kenyans to work. Right now, on our website, you know, the Diaspora Placement Agency is recruiting for jobs in some country in the Caribbean, is recruiting for jobs in Jersey, and so on. So these are some of the things. Our embassies have capacity, and we're increasing the capacity of our embassies to work better with our diaspora. So that if today you're a diasporian who is, or you're a person who's stranded because somebody has taken away your passport in country X, you just reach out to our embassy, WhatsApp lines, or reach out to us. Here in Nairobi, we have a 24-hour diaspora call center, where people can call and say, you know, nimezama Uarabuni in such and such a country, and we are able to intervene. Okay. So we just need people to do some of these things. But let me also say some of the other things, because this is a question I get asked a lot. Okay. What is the government doing? We have created handbooks, right, that tell Kenyans, if you're going to go work in Qatar, for example, here is a handbook that tells you a little bit about Qatar, so you don't go without knowing, right? The first time you went to Qatar, you probably, you know, knew very little, but now we have a handbook that tells you, okay, if you're going to Qatar, this is the main city, this is, you know, how you end up taking a taxi, that kind of stuff, and protects people. But we also are very responsive on social media for anybody who reaches out looking for support. We are just saying to Kenyans, we've done this piece, you need to do your part.
Okay.
You need to do your part.
Okay, and you will also answer these questions.
Yes.
What is the government position in regards? We have seen there was a case in Saudi Arabia where somebody was supposed to be killed because he committed a crime. Then we saw the lady, I think it was in some country in
Vietnam.
In Vietnam. What is the government position in regards to those who are caught in criminal activities? But we'll be talking about that because of the interest of time. Naweza taka tu summarize utuambie uliweza kujinasua aje na pia au mabesti wengine mlikuwa nao watatu waliweza kujitoa ama kwa ngori ama bado wako?
Nikianza niliweza kujinasua time niliona hakuna salary yenye tunapewa, one thing. Another thing, I have a wife na watoto. So niliweza kumanage. Time nilienda nilikuwa na simu 3. Niliweza kumanage kupeana hizo 2 nikaficha moja. Hii moja sasa ndio nilikuwa na communicate na familia. So nilikuwa napata ile pressure yenye wazazi karibu almost wazazi wa Kenya wenye tulikuwa nao kwenye hiyo ofisi walikuwa wanafanya nini? Walikuwa wana communicate kutoka kwangu na wafikishia. Alafu bado familia yangu unasikia umetextiwa nyumba inafungwa.
So ulisaidikaje? Kwa sababu naambiwa director wangu ananiambia kwa masikio nimalize. Lakini uliweza kujisaidiaje kama vile Madam PS anasema Wakenya wanaweza wakasaidika kama wanaweza reach out. Uli reach out aje kwa the ministry because ni ministry ndio Kenya ndio ilikuleta ama ni wewe uliweza kujileta mwenyewe?
Ni Kenya ilinileta lakini kidogo tu utanipea kama 5 minutes.
Ushida ni kwa sababu tunafaa kuwa tumetoka kwa studio sasa kuna nyingine inakuja.
At first communicate na embassy lakini embassy haikuweza kunisaidia. Alisema Mr. Ambassador alisema hakuna huko hivyo, hakuna vile anaweza tusaidia kabisa. But Hat Kenya niliongea na another madam anaitwa Jay. Huyu Jay kuna vile ako linked kidogo na Hat Kenya. Huyu madam ndio aliweza kufanya nini? Aliweza kutusaidia tukafanya nini? Tukarudi Kenya wakiwa na Madam PS. Lakini before that ilibidi tumetoroka kwanza. Nilitoroka after.
I think we really need enough time for this and we'll have a segment for you to actually tell us the whole story. But Madam PS, kwa sababu ya time, naweza taka tu utuambie wale ambao wanashikwa kwa crime. Ile swali nilikuwa nimekuuliza.
Okay, very well. So I'll answer it. I'll take 30 seconds to say when people reach out, especially to our ambassador in Bangkok, for the ones in Myanmar, we have to try and do a multi-agency, including people like Heart to help rescue them. That's the process. But let me say this. Our position is this. If you go to another country, respect the law of the land there. In the same way we expect you to respect the law of the land in Kenya. Respect the law of the land there and subject yourself to those rules because you have gone to that jurisdiction.
Okay. Unfortunately, Madam PS,
that is okay.
I've been informed that our time is up, but I've been with the 2 ladies and a gentleman, Roselyn Njogu, who is the PS for State Department for Diaspora Affairs. We've been looking at matters of human trafficking, and especially when it comes to enforced criminality, which is becoming common, especially for Kenyan. We've also been speaking with James Amunga, who is one of the people who have experienced it firsthand, and also Otieno is the Programs Manager, Awareness Against Human Trafficking, AHAT. Thank you so much indeed for joining. Let's continue this conversation on social media, and all those queries that you have, kindly send them to me, and I will be forwarding them to Madam PS.